O level, let me write the heading, O level accounting. We are going to discuss ratios. So what are ratios, beta? Ratios just provides a relationship between two variables. In accounting, we calculate various ratios. For example, profitability ratio, solvency ratio, liquidity ratios, just to get an idea how the business is performing. Is the business doing good or bad? So we need to understand this. The first ratio we have is profitability ratio. Focus beta, focus beta. This is important. Profitability ratios basically shows profitable position of whether the business is profitable or not. Okay? Whether the business is profitable or not. But before we understand ratios, we need to understand income statement and statement of financial position. We can only calculate ratios once we have our net profit or gross profit. So the first ratio in profitability is gross profit margin. Gross profit margin. What is gross profit margin? But a gross profit margin shows gross profit as a proportionate of sales. Gross profit margin shows gross profit as a proportionate of sales. The formula for gross profit margin is gross profit upon sales multiplied by 100. This is the formula for gross profit margin. Gross profit upon sales multiplied by 100. And we know how we calculate gross profit. Gross profit is simply the difference between revenue and cost of goods sold. Gross profit is simply the difference between revenue and cost of goods sold. So it's a way of expressing gross profit as a percentage of sales. And in this case, it is higher the better. Higher the better. For example, in 2019, our gross profit margin is 20%, and in 2020, our gross profit margin have become 22%. This means that the business have improved, that the business have progressed. This is a good sign for the business. This is a good sign for the business. So in gross profit margin, we say if the gross profit margin improves, this means that the business is doing good, the business is progressing. In this case, it's higher the better. Higher the value, that's good for the business. Formula is gross profit upon sales multiplied by 100. After this beta, we have net profit margin. So what is a net profit margin? Net profit margin is net profit as a percentage of sales. So the formula is going to be net profit upon sales multiplied by 100. Net profit upon sales multiplied by 100 will be my net profit margin. And how do I calculate net profit? Gross profit minus expenses equals to net profit. You know how to make income statement, right? So you know how to find net profit. ठीक है बेटा?
Okay.
Okay. Uh, Same is the case for net profit margin. It will be higher the better. It is a measure of company's profitability expressed as a percentage of revenue that the company keeps as profit. Net profit margin is the ratio of profit a company or business earns to the total amount of sales the company or business generate expressed as percentage. Expressed as percentage. Okay, we understand this. After this beta, we need to discuss the concept of margin and markup. What is margin? Solely margin. Margin is simply profit as a percentage of sales. Profit as a percentage of sales. How are you going to get questions in exam? Let's suppose if I say sales, I don't know value of my sales. Sometimes examiner can give a similar question. Examiner can say your value of sales is unknown. Uh, cost of goods sold is known. Cost of goods sold is, let's suppose, 20,000. And he had given me margin of 2%. Examiner wants me to calculate sales. So we need to understand the steps of calculating sales. If in examiner gives us margin, I'll do sales minus cost of goods sold equals to gross profit. That's the formula for gross profit. We don't know the value for sales, so let's suppose sales is X, cost of goods sold is 20,000, gross profit is going to be 2% of sales. So we will do, because it's margin na, so we will do 0.02x. Why 0.02? Because if you do 2 divided by 100, 2% means 0.02. You can also do it on calculator. It's going to be 0.02x. X minus 0.02x equals to 20,000. So if this has become an equation. If I do 1 minus 0.02, I'll get 0.98. 0.98x equals to 20,000.
Can I come back in a second?
Sure, beta. So x is going to be x is going to be 20,000 divided by 0.98. Divided by 0.98. It is going to be 20,408. 20,408 is going to be my sales. Okay, that's the case if margin is given in the question. If margin is given in the question, so that is going to be the case. But what if markup is given? Now let's talk about markup. Markup. up. What is markup? Beta, markup is profit as a percentage of cost of sales. Profit as a percentage of cost of sales. If markup is given, then it's going to be, let's suppose, let's try to solve a question. Let's suppose I don't know my cost of sales. I don't know what is the cost of goods sold. Let's suppose it's X. Okay, this is the question. I don't know cost of goods sold, but I know sales. Let's suppose sales are 20,000 and markup is 3%. This is the data which is given in the question. Examiner wants me to calculate cost of goods sold. So sales minus cost of goods sold equals to gross profit, same formula. Sales is going to be 20,000. Cost of sales, I don't know, X. Profit is going to be 3% of cost of sales. Why? Because markup is given in the question. So 0.03x. 20,000 equals to 0.03x plus x. 1 plus 0.03 equals to 1.03. 1.03x equals to 20,000. So it is going to be 20,000 divided by 1.03. Cost of sales is going to be 19,417. 19,417. This is going to be my cost of goods sold. COGS. Cost of goods sold. Sales is 20,000. I don't know the cost, but the profit is markup 3%, 0.03x. So it's going to be 1.03x equals to 20,000. 20,000 divided by 1.03, it's going to be 19,417 for my cost of sales or cost of goods sold. Sometimes in ratios or in incomplete records, examiner can ask such questions. Let's do another question like this for practice. Let's suppose now beta in exam, let's suppose examiner gave me a data. This is the question. Sales equals to 100,000. I don't know cost of goods sold, but I have markup of 12%. Can you try this? If I give you markup, if I give you sales, can you calculate cost of goods sold?
Yes, you can.
Just try it. You have the markup, you have sales, but you don't have cost of goods sold. Give it a try. Solve it and tell me the answer. I'll do it for you. Sales minus cost of goods sold equals to gross profit. You have the sales are 100,000. I don't know cost of goods sold, so cost of goods sold, let's suppose is X. But I have markup. Markup is 12%. So this means that gross profit is 12% of 12% of cost of goods sold. So I'll say 0.12x. Why? Because it's 12% markup. 12% of cost of sales or cost of goods sold. Now I'll simply do beta 100,000 equals to 0.12x plus x. 100,000 equals to 1.12x. 0.12 plus 1 equals to 1.12. 100,000 divided by 1.12 equals to x. 100,000 divided by 1.12, it's going to be 89,285. 89,285. This is going to be
Okay.
cost of goods sold. Copy it. Copy all the steps one by one. Then I'll give you one more question.
Can I first come back in a second?
Sure, beta.